Good day, everyone. I'm Joel Joshua Diaz, and I will be discussing Republic Act number 9147, also known as the Wildlife Resources Conservation and Protection Act. So, yung law na to is very important in preserving our country's rich biodiversity and ine-ensure ng law na to na yung wildlife, species, and habitats are protected for future generations. Next is rationale. So, Republic Act number 9147 was created because the Philippines is home to one of the world's richest concentrations of wildlife species. Yet many of them are becoming endangered or threatened due to human activities like habitat destruction, illegal hunting, wildlife trading, and the introduction of exotic species have caused severe imbalances in our ecosystem. So yung law na to, iniin niya na ma-address yung mga problem na yon by regulating human activities that affect wildlife. Ine-ensure ng law na to na yung paggamit ng wildlife resources is sustainable and scientifically guided. It is also supports the Philippines' commitment to international conventions that protect biodiversity. In short, yung RA 9147 exists to restore balance, prevent extinction, and protect our natural heritage. So for scope and limitations naman, the law covers all wildlife species found anywhere in the Philippines, whether they are in natural forests, protected areas like national parks, wetlands, or even critical habitats. It also applies to exotic or foreign species that are traded, bred, or maintained here. So the law gives specific responsibilities to different government agencies like yung DNR. They handle all terrestrial animals, plants, amphibians, insects, reptiles, and wetland species. While sa DA and BFAR naman, they handle aquatic species such as fish and marine mammals. Tapos sa Palawan naman, the responsibility is given to the Palawan Council for Sustainable Development because of the province's unique biodiversity. So, dumako naman tayo sa limitations. So, first limitation is that indigenous people can collect wildlife only for traditional cultural practices. Hindi sila pwede magbenta or for commercial use. Next is collecting or disturbing threatened species is strictly prohibited unless it is for scientific research, conservation breeding or propagation. Next is that introduction of exotic species is heavily regulated and it is completely banned inside protected areas and critical habitats. So yung law na to requires anyone who wants to possess wildlife to have the technical capacity, proper facilities, and financial resources to ensure the animal's welfare. So these limitations help ensure that wildlife is not abused or exploited. So next is the relevant discussion. So first is the conservation and protection activities. Yung law, nagre-regulate siya ng activities such as the collection, possession, transport, export, import, breeding, and research of wildlife. Pero lahat ng to, before siya gawin, nagre-require siya ng proper permit. Before approving any activity, the government must review scientific data to ensure that that action will not harm wildlife population or their habitats. This ensures that conservation decisions are based on science, not assumptions. So the law also promotes population assessments, biosafety guidelines, and scientific research that help us understand and protect wildlife better. So next is the protection of threatened species. So the law has a clear system for identifying and classifying species as critically endangered, vulnerable, and other threatened categories. So the DNR or DA is responsible for creating regularly updating these lists based on the scientific criteria such as habitat destruction, overharvesting, and other threats. So, once na yung species ay na-threatened, stricter rules apply. So threatened species cannot be collected unless the purpose is purely scientific, educational, or for conservational breeding. This ensures that we prevent further decline in their population. So next is establishment of critical habitats. The law also requires the government to identify and designate critical habitats, areas outside protected zones that are home to threatened species. So these habitats must be protected from destructive activities such as logging, mining, burning, dumping waste, and land occupation. Uh, Importante itong mga to kasi karamihan ng mga species ay nakatira sa labas ng national parks. And without designated protection, those habitats are at high risk of destruction. So next is the illegal acts. RA 9147 strictly prohibits harmful actions involved wildlife. So isa na dito yung killing or injuring wildlife, trading wildlife, collecting or possessing wildlife or their byproducts without permits, destroying nests or host plants, dumping waste or invading critical habitats, introducing exotic species without approval, transporting wildlife without documentation. These prohibitions are important because they directly address the activities that led to species decline and ecological imbalance. So next is the penalties. The law imposes strong penalties to discourage illegal wildlife activities. The fines and imprisonment vary depending on the species affected. So for example, harming critical endangered species can lead to 6 to 12 years of imprisonment and fines of up to 1 million pesos. Meanwhile, harming vulnerable or common species also carries significant penalties. So the fines increase every 3 years to keep their deterrent effect strong, even with inflation. So lastly is the enforcement system and support programs. So RA number 9147 also establishes several support system to ensure the law is effectively implemented. Isa na dito ang wildlife rescue centers. Para to sa mga surrendered animals. So next is the wildlife traffic monitoring units stationed in airports and seaports to inspect wildlife shipments. Next is the wildlife enforcement officers, including trained volunteers, NGOs, and other government agencies. Next is the National Wildlife Research Centers, para naman to sa mga scientific research and conservation programs. Lastly is the Wildlife Management Fund, used for habitat restoration, enforcement, research, and capacity building. So these features show that RA 9147 is not just about punishment, but also supports science and long-term conservation efforts. Lastly is the synthesis or suggestions. To summarize, RA 9147 is a comprehensive law that addresses wildlife conservation from multiple angles, including regulations, science, enforcement, habitat protection, and community involvement. It aims to ensure that wildlife species and their habitats are preserved while still allowing responsible use under strict conditions. The law recognizes the importance of biodiversity in maintaining ecological balance and support the idea that protecting wildlife is also protecting the future of humans. So for suggestions or recommendations, first is strengthen enforcement by increasing the number of trained wildlife officers and improving monitoring in airports, seaports, and wildlife hotspots. Second is increase public awareness through educational campaigns in school and communities to reduce wildlife trafficking and encourage responsible environmental behavior. Third is regularly update the threatened species list based on new scientific data, especially with the impact of climate change and habitat loss. Fourth is the empower local government units to adopt flagship species and create conservation programs. Lastly is provide livelihood alternatives for communities that depends on wildlife harvesting to reduce illegal exploitation. So by continuing to enforce and strengthen this law, we can help safeguard the Philippines' biodiversity for generations to come. So that's it, everyone. That concludes my presentation on Republic Act 9147. Thank you for watching, and I hope this helps raise awareness of the importance of wildlife conservation in our country. Thank you.